Hey everybody, welcome to Futurum Tech TV and the Futurum Tech Webcast live on LinkedIn. I'm your host, Daniel Newman, Principal Analyst, Founding Partner at Futurum Research. Excited for this special edition live from MWC, but not live from MWC, but maybe next year we'll really be live from MWC. But I'm excited to be joined by Intel's Dan Rodriguez and Ericsson's Per Narvinger. And it's so exciting to have you guys here. It's exciting that without even flying to Barcelona, no layovers, no jet lag, but we're still together to talk about all the news and all things that are going on. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, man. Great to be here with you and Per.
Yeah, it's so great to have you all here. For the sake of the audience, because here at Futurum Tech Podcast, we have lots of guests, lots of really smart people that come through our pods, our webcasts, and our LinkedIn Lives. You know, love to take a moment and have each of you quickly introduce yourself before I dive into both of you talking about the news, talk about what's hot in 5G and what's going to be the big messages coming out of MWC this year. So Dan, you and I have done a few of these pods and shows together in the past. So for the sake of you being a multi-time guest, I'll let you go first.
Sure. So I'm Dan Rodriguez. I'm a corporate vice president and general manager of what we call the Network Platforms Group. Essentially, we're the group at Intel that partners with companies like Ericsson to truly deliver the right solutions for not only telecommunications industry, but also cable, enterprise networks, et cetera. So very excited to be here and very excited to be talking with you, Dan, but also my partner, Per, from the Ericsson team.
Great to have you here, Dan. Per, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. So at least I'm in Europe, right? Even if I'm not in Barcelona. So I'm working with Ericsson in the networks part of the company and heading up then our portfolio for networks. So everything from 2G to 5G and transport and so on. And of course, happy to be here. And of course, with this announcing a lot of things now together with Intel and Dan here.
Well, welcome you both to the show. A quick disclosure. First of all, I want to thank Intel and Ericsson for being a partner and sponsor of this episode of the Futurum Tech Webcast podcast and live on LinkedIn. And second of all, just a quick reminder, everybody, this show is for information and entertainment purposes only. While we are talking about and to executives from publicly traded company, please do not take anything I say or anyone on the show says as investment advice. Always like to get that out of the way early on. Listen, you know, I've been working alongside this industry for years. 2018, this is the big year for 5G. 2019, this is the year of 5G. 2020 is the year of 5G, and now we're in 2021, definitely the year of 5G. And in different ways, every one of these years have been the year of 5G. But just give me a quick status update here, Per. You know, what's the 5G status right now as you and as Ericsson sees it?
So I would say the first wave of 5G is now live. We have 5G live in more than 160 networks, and it's growing fast. And by the end of 21 now, we foresee that we will have 580 million subscriptions. So for sure, 5G has started. Then obviously it's a journey. And that's why, of course, you hear stuff saying this is the year, maybe this is the year of C-band or Midband in the US, right? But that has already happened in other parts of the world. So it's a journey, and it's going to, of course, have a lot of developments here. And it's not just launching 5G networks. Of course, we see this as a platform for innovation. So this is just the beginning. So let's say that wave one is concluded, and we're entering a second phase here.
Yeah,
and I couldn't agree more. I think all these years are big. It's kind of hard to call which one is the biggest, but I'm definitely encouraged by what we're seeing with 5G rollouts globally. We're really starting to see a lot of benefits from latency and bandwidth improvements. And of course, this is bringing all sorts of benefits to both consumers, but also a range of industries. Because you do know that 5G was designed really from the get-go to not just deliver broadband, which it will do, and it will deliver all sorts of amazing consumer experiences like cloud gaming, et cetera. But it will also really change the way a lot of industries really deploy their service or build their products. And with that in mind, when you think about the move to 5G, the network infrastructure itself, it is super critical. And it needs to be built really from the get-go with service flexibility in mind. Because again, it's not just that consumer experiences, it's also a wide range of industries. So you're seeing a lot of companies invest in more of a software-defined infrastructure that's really agile and flexible from the start. In addition, I would love to add on here is that when you think about 5G, and you also think about Intel's new CEO, Pat Gelsinger, you're hearing our CEO oftentimes talk about these superpowers of tech and their cloud, their AI, their connectivity fueled by 5G, and then of course the rise of an intelligent edge. And when you think about these superpowers of tech, you can think that these are all really powerful forces on their own, but when they work together, they're even more powerful. And when you think about this case with 5G, you can think about 5G, and then you think about it in the combination of the pervasiveness or how pervasive AI is becoming across a number of workloads. And these two things are creating, and it's really combining together and really creating what we would call the rise of the intelligent edge. So I'm very bullish on where we're at with 5G, but also where it's going in the future to support all sorts of enterprise use cases.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that, Dan, because I think verticalization has been a really hot trend across all of technology this year, but 5G is one of those, you can call it a superpower, you can call it an enabler, but everything from, we've heard about smart cities and what that's going to look like and the potential. We hear about EVs and autonomous and getting to level 3 and 4 and eventually full self. Well, none of this is going to happen without that ultra low latency, super high bandwidth, you got massive throughput of data. It's not, otherwise, even if you can do it in a lab, you'll never be able to do it in a real environment with all kinds of unpredictable, things that are going to happen around you. So, and then you look at best cases of retail and how shopping can be evolved and changed, or going to a stadium, going to a movie, traveling, all these things are going to be really powered. But I am seeing and hearing, as an analyst, so much more focus on verticalizing this, separating, the different industries so that we can show what the potential is and delivering it through visible and real world experiences that we can all relate to. Now, I want to move a little bit though and talk about the RAN, and talk about kind of what's happening here. And I'm, this is a big part of what both Intel and Ericsson are working on together. But, we've heard a lot about the vRAN, the virtualization of the RAN. What's been the driving force that this is becoming such a big topic around 5G?
So I think it's been a big topic for many years, right? And first of all, when we talk about radio access networks, I think it's important to also keep it simple, right? So if you think about a mobile network system, typically you have a radio sitting up in a tower, and then something, handling all the compute. And this compute part we're talking about, and most networks have been rolled out so far. They have then been built on purpose-built hardware. And then virtualization in itself, that's another step. As we just discussed here, we have launched 5G, but now we're taking another step and also virtualizing. And of course, a lot of trade-offs. How engineering is all about trade-offs. What do you get for what kind of trade-off? So if you build something purpose-built, it becomes very, very effective for one specific purpose. But if you go for general purpose and virtualization, then of course you have synergies with what you're doing in other parts of the network. You have synergies with what you maybe have done on the core side, and maybe even with other verticals or other industries. So you can start orchestrating the network in a different way. And I think that's where we are seeing our customers, or at least some of our early adapters, they are going there more forcefully than before. And that, I think, is what is happening, that we are getting closer to the gap between what is purpose-built and general purpose is becoming smaller. So some of our customers are now moving. And of course, then together with Intel, we are making that possible. And it's taken a lot of optimization. So I would say it's customer-driven. So it's on top of the 5G introduction, we also see this virtualization.
Yeah, you could pretty much look at how cloud adoption has gone, how consumption of services has migrated, and this follows suit with a lot of, meeting the customer where they are and that desire, that overwhelming desire in the market to do that. Now, I want to pause you real quick, Par. What do you have behind you? I see some, I'm a little bit of a geek. I see some gear. it feels like it's there to show off. Are you showing something off there, or
no, but we are still not in office in this country, so we have to bring some of the gear to the home instead. So what you see here on the top right, that's a typical compute piece that you put out by the tower. So a classical purpose built. But what we are now discussing is instead using this kind of hardware. So this is just a reference design from Dan and team, right? But you can see the similarities, right? So these are the stuff you put out in the field to do the compute. Sometimes you put it in hubs. So you could hear people talking about baseband hotels, then they have many of them. But you also have just one of them. And here you then see that you're getting closer with this type of generic hardware. This is a dual sled version. And this one will be capable also of running midband. And that's really what we have announced now together with Intel. So already last year we said we can execute low band, but the true hero band of 5G, that's when you get higher throughput, good reach. That's a midband deployment. And you could definitely run that on one sled like this. And if you like, you could put it more centralized, or you could put it out by the tower as well, right? So that is where we are, so as far as we have come now. And we are then feeling comfortable saying, look, we're going to continue to deploy these kind of units in the future as well. But we also have a vision that we're going to be able to execute, all our RAN functionality also on generic hardware. And that is what we have then been driving together with Intel, because it takes a lot actually, and a lot of accelerated technology that goes into this. And I'm sure Dan is excited to talk more about what we've actually done with these units.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to that, but let that be a warning to my future interviewees. If you put gear in the background of your interview, I might ask you about it. So let's hope it's related to what we're going to talk about. Dan, before I move over, because I do actually, that was my next question. I was going to hit you up on the midband stuff, but I know Intel has a perspective on the virtualized and cloud RAN. Anything to add to what Par already shared?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about really the journey the market's been on, and we've talked about this as network transformation, it's really a journey that was started about a decade ago. And some of the benefits that Per talked about, it actually started in the core network. We've gradually seen throughout the LTE time horizon, and now with 5G, seeing that core network really migrate to virtualized network servers that are more software defined, giving greater flexibility as well as greater automation on the network. And as Per was mentioning, we are seeing this trend start to take off for radio access network. We're seeing service providers really look at portions of the radio access network, looking at how they can virtualize them, how they can cloudify them. And the good thing here is it's creating a great business opportunity for many companies out there, Ericsson, of course, Intel, of course, as well as others, because we're seeing operators really start to move from POCs trials to deployments. And that's exciting. And I'm definitely excited about participating in this journey with the overall operators.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to be, as an analyst, I have to think about how I look at the market in its entirety. And so you bring up the midband pair, and, we hear a lot of different things. There's a very compelling case about these high band, millimeter wave and its potential. And then of course you hear about from an operator standpoint, just the density of rollout of the low band, how broadly it's been able to be deployed. Although in cases 5G doesn't really even perform. In some cases, low band, you're not even getting much more than what you've gotten used to with LTE. And you guys are really, this partnership, you're really kind of leaning into this midband. And albeit candidate, hasn't been something I'm hearing as much about. So let's break this here. Why is this such an opportunity? Why is the midband a space with 5G that people should be talking more about?
So we typically refer to midband as the hero band, or that's where you typically have a lot of bandwidth, not as much as on millimeter wave, but you can get really good coverage. So I think that is why midbands become so attractive. So you can deploy them pretty much on an existing grid that you have and get a great experience for the end user. But what we are doing here as well is that, of course, the first wave, as we discussed, of 5G is already deployed. And of course, all our customers, they want to leverage what they have invested in. So we are also looking at ways of introducing this new technology together with existing networks. So we feel talking about greenfield or brownfield, that doesn't really do this justice. We actually said bluefield because you're actually taking a new technology and bring it into an existing network. And of course, we provide a bridge there as well, because in the end, our customers, they will over time need the entire asset of low band, of mid-band, and high band. And that's the possibility we're bringing here. So even if we have deployed a lot of 5G networks, we can now start deploying them in a cloud way, in a cloud paradigm, and still leverage what has already been deployed. I think that's a very strong proposition then for our customers. And that makes it possible for them to start exploring these technologies, start seeing what benefits can you get in how you scale in, scale out. Of course, a big thing to disaggregate. Software, hardware, totally different or separated. No longer buying everything from Ericsson. You can go buy the hardware from HP or any preferred OEM of Intel, and that is of course a big shift. And then see what benefits can you achieve then by orchestration and flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to keep kind of pushing this forward, but something that I would like to get both of your takes on is the decision to collaborate. So we hear so much about ecosystem and partnership, and of course MWC is a massive show for individual companies to make announcements. It's also a pretty massive show for companies to come together and make ecosystem announcements. Ericsson and Intel have made many announcements over the years, but what is driving? Why are your two companies focusing on collaborating in this particular cloudification of the RAN? And Dan, you've been sitting patient a while, so I'm gonna throw this one to you first.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and Per and I are both really charged up about the collaboration between Ericsson and Intel here. We've really come together to enable high-performance cloud RAN solutions for a wide variety of deployments. And essentially, what we're collaborating on is to deliver a solution that delivers high capacity to be able to support even the densest environments, as well as be able to support all sorts of RAN environments, and even some of the most kind of stringent ones from a performance perspective. And we've collaborated on our product together. Essentially, obviously, Ericsson brings a rich history of knowledge, know-how, and really all sorts of innovation on the RAN. Intel obviously has a great understanding of our CPUs and really the entire system. So we've collaborated together on our Xeon Scalable processors as well as our accelerator technology. And I would view this, and it is a very, very much so a long-term collaboration. It is a multi-generational collaboration. It's a collaboration we're starting with our current network optimized Xeon Scalable processors as well as our accelerator technology, but we're also focused on the future, and we're collaborating on future CPUs, such as our Sapphire Rapids as well as our Granite Rapids processors as well.
Yeah, and I imagine for Ericsson, there's a number of compelling reasons as well to align to Intel, but of course they're not your only partner either. So what's the driving force from your viewpoint?
No, but that's of course, going back to what we talked about in the beginning of the session as well, right? If you're gonna think of a world where you have 5G everywhere, in enterprises, and in the end, we see that we're going to be executing our radio networks or cloud RAN on any platform, on any cloud, right? And so we're going to be working and driving the entire ecosystem. Then obviously you need to start somewhere, right? And Intel is in a pole position here. Of course, also nowadays if you disaggregate, right, Intel is also going to be and Intel's OEMs is also going to be engaging with our customers. And in the end, the customer will decide what platform are they going for. And then we are working closely trying to get the most out of Intel's platform. And that's why we have announced with Intel now, because we see they are in a pole position. Then over time, I'm sure we're going to be adding, different type of cloud environments, but also different hardware platforms. So it's a new type of ecosystem, similar to what you have seen then on the core side as well, right? But here there is the need also for accelerated technology, which also means that there will be more than one player in the end, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that this really is a partnership that's been, collaborated over time. And Dan, you started to allude to how it came about and how it will be part of your next generation Xeon Scalable with Sapphire Rapids. But almost 5 years of work has gone into this partnership. The two companies have worked together to, I think I saw a data point, something like 80% higher RAN capacity through what you've been able to co-develop, which, speaks a huge amount for what collaboration can do. And I know every company is competing for market share. In a lot of cases, you have so much horizontal and verticalization that sometimes you're competing and cooperating at the same time. But in the end, when the consumer wins, when the consumer benefits, all the players that are involved tend to win as well. That's why, I always say I love competition, because competition means innovation. Innovation means happy consumers, and it means a great ecosystem of connectivity and applications that we love and use every day. So I want to get to that part now. I want to come back to you on this, what it means for the customer. And for you guys, your biggest customer is often the operators and the comm service providers. So when the two companies come together, build something like this, roll it out and announce it, how does this help them?
So we did talk about the disaggregation part, right? Because that means, of course, that the customer can buy the same compute hardware for the entire network. I mean, what has been done so far, typically they go to us to buy our gear for one part of the network, and then go to one of our competitors and buy it for the other part of the network. Here they can decide, I'm going to run this server technology everywhere, and then I'm going to have all my suppliers deliver on it. So then I get the harmonization across the network. I'm going to have the same type of hardware. I'm going to have the same type of orchestration tools across the network. And by that, I will have a more efficient, operations. Whatever I design for one part of the network, I can reuse in another part for the lifecycle management and the hardware parts. So of course, then it becomes very important to have, the best hardware platform, and then you truly need to optimize our software for the platform, understand what instruction sets are needed. And that's where we've had great collaboration with Dan's team, trying to figure out what is then needed to make sure we can then execute this very processing intensive midbands on this COT server. So this is really, it's been a great collaboration, and that's we keep pushing here. And as I said, we see this as a journey, and we see that we're going to be able to execute. Not just the midbands, we already do the low bands, but we're not going to stop there, right? So we're going to continue this close collaboration, and then really see how we can optimize, and then in the end help our customers to different type of deployments in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to bounce it over to Dan, but I think really what I was hoping, and you did this perfectly, Par, was reiterating the importance of disaggregation. I think sometimes, we lose a little bit of meaning inside of the technical jargon, but what we are essentially doing here, and Dan, I've queued you up, you're big on the screen now, but, we're allowing that big compute to now be core. We're getting away from proprietary. We're opening it up, right? You're talking about virtualization. We're talking about open architectures that now compute and cloud functions the same way. It's not unique. It's not something totally specialized like this industry has long been kind of guilty of. You could say it's worked really well, but as we go forward, we want to scale. And so I was really glad you pointed that out, Dan, or sorry, Par. But Dan, in terms of from the Intel side, this kind of collaboration, is defining Intel's role. You guys have a huge play inside of the comm service provider and inside of the operator space, and sometimes because of all the other big businesses of Intel, people don't always hear about it. But this had to be a really big moment for your side as well.
Absolutely. We look at this. This has been a long-term investment for Intel, a long-term investment in terms of really delivering platforms that allow service providers a ton of flexibility across multiple deployment scenarios. And it's pretty exciting that we've announced this partnership with Ericsson to really tackle the toughest challenges with Cloud RAN. And it's also exciting that Ericsson's adding 5G midband capabilities to their Cloud RAN platform. And that's great. And it's also great that if you look at the state of the overall ecosystem, as Per mentioned, it is a very robust ecosystem out there with many different players across numerous levels in this disaggregated architecture in Cloud RAN. And I'm definitely bullish on what we've accomplished in the core network as an industry and where that's going. And that's going to, if you think about the core network being pretty much, by 2024-ish, it's going to be a significant 5GSA core that's going to be running across virtualized network servers. And it's exciting to see companies like Ericsson and others really step into delivering strong Cloud RAN solutions. And then if you think about Ericsson's offer here just for a second, that Per mentioned, is that the way Ericsson is approaching this is they're approaching of both their purpose-built systems and their Cloud RAN solutions in a way that allows their customers a ton of choice in terms of how they deploy a strong 5G network to tackle multiple deployment scenarios.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, Per, that you brought up the blue field, by the way. We just need more colored fields. And so, but in all seriousness, I love that you can simply, whether it's DRAN, CRAN, what you've essentially talked about with this disaggregation strategy is it doesn't really matter what exists today. You're going to try to work together to build the simplest transformation. We use the words digital transformation a lot. It's become a bit of a buzzword, but in the reality is that's exactly what you're talking about doing. You're enabling these mobile operators and carriers to shift over to a scalable cloud architecture that can enable them to grow their businesses infinitely into the future with the newest technologies, and it continues to evolve as new technologies come out. So I want to take this thing home, and I want to talk about the future, because this is Futurum Tech TV. I've really appreciate getting to know you, hearing you out here, and getting that live presentation of those boxes behind you. Do you want to run through those again? I'm kidding. What I would love to do, though, here to end this, just kind of talk about, what are the plans going forward? You've sort of kind of alluded that you're not stopping here, but what should the market be looking for, expecting, both out of the partnership and then perhaps out of Ericsson as we come out of this MWC 2021?
No, but so if I start then. So as I said, when you embark on a journey like this, you want to be able to paint a vision, right? So I think a few years back, we were probably more looking at virtualization. That would be something for indoor or for baseband hotels, that's sometimes being referred to. Where you have a lot of compute in one location. But we see that cloud technologies, they can be viable across the network. Then, as I said, of course, it will be a transformation for most of our customers. They will transform their networks into a complete cloud solution. But when I show the gear behind me, I think what is impressive is that you can get down in size and power consumption. You can also start deploying them in a distributed fashion. That means that the vision is you can have Cloud RAN everywhere, or virtually everywhere, if you want to play with words, right? And that is, of course, a major step. And the accelerated technologies have made that possible. And that's where we have cooperated very closely. But this, as I said, it's just the beginning, because for each generation then with Xeon, Sapphire, Granite, you're going to have even more and more powerful accelerators. So you will need that. So making sure that you can handle more and more, of course, of the traffic that is out there in the networks. And of course, over time, also move it up to the really demanding bands of millimeter wave and so on. So again, it's we're going to have plenty of work also next year. I'm sure we're going to have some interesting announcement also next year in Barcelona, and you're going to see Cloud RAN virtually everywhere. But then, how do you see it?
Yeah, I know. Thanks, Per. Building off what you said is that, first, again, I'm very bullish on the overall partnership. And obviously, we made a good announcement here, but our two companies are not stopping. We're going to continue to look at all sorts of deployment scenarios. We were talking a lot about outdoor today. I do see us in the future really examining use case-driven scenarios both for indoor, campus, enterprise, and a ton of different market opportunities. And I see us, working together, not only going after kind of public network consumption, supporting both consumers, but also businesses, but also looking at some of those enterprise use cases as well, and really helping comm service providers monetize and get value for the great network offerings that they are delivering. So I'm definitely excited about what we've already done together as two companies, but also excited about the future, and really the future of our two companies, but also the future of the entire industry.
And I couldn't have ended it any better myself. Dan Rodriguez, Per Narvinger, thank you both so much for joining me here on Futurum Tech TV, the webcast, and live on LinkedIn. Good luck to both of you with the rest of MWC 2021. We'll be keeping our eyes on all things coming out of Intel, Ericsson, and from the event. And hopefully I'll have you both back sometime soon.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for the conversation.
Thanks for having us.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button. Join us for future episodes. We had some great guests today. We'll have some great guests coming on soon. And make sure you tune in to the rest of MWC 2021. Check the show notes if you're listening to this on demand and learn more about what Ericsson and Intel are doing in the show notes. For now, I got to say goodbye. But for myself and for our extra special guests today, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you later.